So this is No Need to Argue. And this is a tapestry that I got very excited about. And our tagline, the title of the piece is No Need to Argue. And of course there's enormous irony in that expression, because as women we realise there's many reasons to argue. And this tapestry pays homage and honour to many of the issues that are specific to a woman's walk in life. So I would have started initially with 5 very simple motifs. I would have had my central horse, my Sinead O'Connor, my Dolores O'Riordan, and my zombie Troy and No Need to Argue. And from there the piece grew. So this central horse is very much a kind of Jim Fitzpatrick inspired applique piece, and each would have a lot of symbolism, whether it is the white horse of Tirnanoog or the horse from Into the West, or this type of phoenix driven horse, which if you study the Song of Troy, Sinead makes enormous reference to this phoenix that a lot of women suffer, whether we're kind of recovering from a domestic violence situation or starting our lives completely anew and refreshed. So we lean into a lot of that trauma and are very empowered from the agency it gives us to be actually in the front driving seat of our own lives, to people that have been denied agency and that freedom long into life. So in our beautiful horse, we have in loving memory of Anne Lovett from Main Street, Granard, died aged 15 with her infant baby, and also her sister Patricia, who died at age 14 very soon after. And we all know the tragic story of that. And what it allows us is to look at ourselves as a society and how we've treated our own young girls. So we have Bansky, a homage to him, because the whole piece is kind of this protest explosion, and it makes wonderful reference to street and graffiti artists and a lot of neon and Grayson Perry, his wonderful use of tapestry, which is this bombardment of messaging. So we kind of went with that spirit and vein. So we have this very famous street piece by Bansky where you have the silhouette of the girl holding the heart balloon, and that would be a universal symbol of hope. So we've sent Anne and her sister this messaging of I love you. Dolores here, you have a reference to Savita, and we all know what we did here in Galway in our own university hospital to Savita, who had to lose her life for no good reason. We have references here to this lovely red Tweety bird kind of representing tweeterdom, and a they them to represent a little courtesy nod to non-binary women and the story and struggles that they have to endure in being accepted in life. Rape Crisis Centre loves you, and I'd be deeply affected by this myself, having to lean into the Rape Crisis Centre, who definitely transformed my life and my children's life. So they're a wonderful organisation who believes you, and that's quite something, because women throughout the generations have often not been believed. And when you're not believed, it's a lifelong sentence. So we have Sinead O'Connor here, the wonderful Sinead. Never apologise for who you are, be who you are. And a quote here from Michael Harding from Death of an Irish Woman, which says, I have embroidered, I loved her from the day she died. And often these marvellous Irish women who have given us so much, we often treat them very badly during their lifetime. And it's only after they pass away do we really appreciate what they gave us and what they sacrificed to give us. Troy, a very exceptional song by Sinead. And in the O here, we have a homage to Vanessa Lourdes White and James and Sarah Rutledge, who were just recently murdered by the man who should have been protecting them for their lives. And an uncommon story, and something that won't end with this tapestry. We have many of these stories, but it was important to pay homage that during the duration of making this tapestry, again, we had somebody, a mother and 2 children, murdered by the man she walked down the aisle with and promised to stay with. Here we have, in the Y, we have a homage to Vicky Phelan, a Gurv Mela Mahagut, and we have the ovaries and the vulva embroidered and stitched, and of course a massive thank you to Vicky for what she did for the cervical cancer exposure and women's health. And of course the march for health, equality and bodily autonomy goes on. So that never ends. Here in our all-seeing eye, very kind of reminiscent of Picasso's Guernica, and we have it here embroidered with multicoloured rainbows, and you'll miss this mess, referencing Sinead and all these great Irish women who we miss only after they're gone sometimes. And survival here, survivor, with your breast cancer symbol. And again, we have it here and in the kind of camouflage because of the battle that it is. And I would have fought breast cancer myself during the pandemic, so I speak firsthand of the difficult battle it can be. Here, of course, with Girl Power, Bring It On, and this wonderful abbreviation, because we were incredibly fortunate to have a lot of young people join our workshops, and we learned so much from them. Repeal the 8, finally, repeal the 8. That was a massive, momentous rite of passage for us here in Ireland, and to see the young ones returning to Ireland to cast that vote was exceptional. And there were several wonderful campaigns going on, and a particular one was In Her Shoes, and it would give the first-hand testimony account from women who have had to suffer with some diabolical issues, and we were able to alleviate and help our own sisters and mothers with repealing the 8. A little quip here: I can't believe we still have to protest this shit. Me neither. And of course you would see those kind of placards from the 20s even, good heavens. So a lot of this is quite deja vu. There's nothing new here. We've been protesting these sins against women for quite some time. Of course, this will be synonymous: keep your rosaries off my ovaries. Of course, that condition of church ruling a woman's ovarian health, and all of these things that they're really not qualified or in the know-how to have input to. You cannot scare me. I was raised by an Irish mother, and I kind of have a Keith Harding, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, and a little courtesy nod to the violence a lot of women have endured from their own mothers too, in the effort to keep them towed into line. Mum's life there, a kind of courtesy nod again to Rosie the Riveter, so she'd be quite an inspirational example to women to seek careers and passions that are often dominated by men only. Of course, the X case and Made in Ireland was diabolical travesty again, and it's an important issue to raise and speak to with our young kids, our young teenagers. This was really from the movie Housewife of the Year, which was quite something, and I couldn't recommend it enough to go and see it if you haven't seen it. But there was this statistic where obviously we failed in the first attempt to secure divorce, and then in November 1995 we won it, and we won it by the slimmest of margins. We won it by 50.28%, which is, I'll be honest, I cried heartily when I saw that statistic, which came up on the Housewife of the Year. And it was quite diabolical and devastating, because just a month prior to that I had moved up here to Galway as a 17-year-old girl myself, And having been denied, my mother being denied divorce the first round had diabolical consequences to me and my family. So it was very heartfelt and shocking that we won by the slimmest of margins, that we couldn't have that compassion for our own mothers and sisters. Devastating. Of course, we have the tagline there, Me Too. And the Me Too was an enormous movement where women openly disclosed trespasses they endured throughout life. Again, we have Rocking the Cradle, Rocked the System. Very famous line from Mary Robinson. She was deeply impactful of us young girls back in the early 80s when she was inaugurated and showed us that a woman can take a front role in a marriage and do something quite extraordinary. We have taglines here. Of course, Zombie is an incredible song and it evokes a lot of wartime trauma, and we have a courtesy nod, a plea, just a solidarity hand laid out there representing the watermelon, representing the genocide at Gaza. This is quite an exceptional piece, and it was given to us by the beautiful Bridget Ward from Tuam. And it was quite incredible. One of our girls, one of our ladies attending, Helen Monaghan, works with some of the travellers, and we were mad to get a beady pocket involved with the piece. And initially I kind of expected this beady pocket to kind of be very Frida Kahlo-esque, and all these kind of maybe harking that campaign, the 1 million stars against domestic violence and whatnot, because we really felt for the travelling community. They themselves carry quite a hidden trauma that it's not as exposed as the settled people are allowed out some of our traumas. And what Bridget brought us was totally opposite to what I imagined. It was an absolute celebration of all that is traveller culture, and that was so deeply inspiring and quite a shake-up for myself too. That we have the May tree celebrated and beautifully decorated, really stunningly, like her stitching is to die for. And of course the May tree would be decorated traditionally to harken summer and to ward off bad luck. And the beautiful wagon embroidered with a beautiful chain stitch, and then you have of course your Padre Pio and all the medals that are significant to them throughout their rites of passage throughout life. Very, very beautiful, and we're deeply grateful to Bridget. Of course, we had the skirts versus shorts that was happening while we were making this to our camogie team. This kind of, God love them, having to go off and plead to wear shorts in 2025 against this whole archaic reasoning for having women in skirts as opposed to shorts for sports. And then of course in Zombie here I have my own personal message, because artists, there's very little between us and the art often. I have to my darling mother, us both senselessly torn from one another, cruelly incarcerated and exiled from each other's arms. And this is a engraving I have on a plaque for her grave, and it explains really about myself and my two younger siblings being taken from my mother, and us being raised in an orphanage run by the Mercy Order of Nuns. And then I have Until My Ashes Are Returned to You, I Love You, Helen. So it was just an appalling, senseless and unnecessary separation that we've endured for life and are still carrying that cross. So good heavens, I think that's it in a nutshell. We have Betsy Cornwell here, Ring of Salt. That's her new book coming out now, and it's around the old knitting factory out in Carrow. So Betsy is quite an astonishing lady, and she offers these retreats and residencies for lone parents. And so she would be a very supportive lady for vulnerable artists and creatives. So we needed to rejoice women like that, because they're rare enough, you know. So, and then of course we have this very smart, super callous, fragile, racist, sexist, Nazi POTUS. And of course that is a pun on that wonderful song we would have been raised with, and quite clever kind of layering in it. And we have of course our wonderful Father Ted Crilly and Dougal Maguire, and they are with that their own protest, down with this sort of thing, careful now. So we all recognise that, and we have some lovely little gay pride flags in there. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell, really. So this is Double D. So this tapestry myself and Rowena would have collaborated with the community to make. And this very beautiful embroidered thank you message, Helen Monaghan embroidered it, and it reads: from April 1st until June 10th, 2025, 18 very wonderful ladies gathered around a table on a weekly basis at the Ballyban Library in Galway. Here, led by the artists, Helen, Flynn and Rowena Carr, and very much inspired by the collective ethos of the Dúnaimar Guild, they set about to collaboratively work on an ambitious community project. Creating 2 large-scale tapestries, each woman was tasked with creating her very own personal response to a theme unique to a woman's story, expressed through textile art. More than half of the women gathered had neither stitched nor embroidered previously, but each gave it a go and completely surprised themselves with a most wondrous talent laying waiting to be discovered from within themselves. Their commitments to this project, their enormous generosity of precious time and energy, and their spirit of goodwill and positivity is most appreciated. This tapestry is affectionately known as Double D, and is sprinkled with their names and deepest thanks. So you can appreciate the women were set a very ambitious target as such, that they were invited to disclose stories that were celebrating and lamenting stories specific and unique to a woman's path in life. So it wasn't like your ordinary workshop where it's kind of paint by numbers. We really asked people to dig deep, and the response was exceptional, really phenomenal and very inspiring. And we were working on No Need to Argue while Double D was building itself, and we had this symbiotic kind of response where we'd present each week to the ladies and see what they had been working on throughout the week. And there really was quite a dance, and I have to say that each and every single one of them inspired the heck out of myself and Rowena, and each week myself and Rowena would raise our game. You know, we would really aspire to kind of lift craft into the fine art spectrum, and that's really something we worked hard on throughout this community project, to raise everybody's creativity up. So this central piece here was done by a lovely lady Claire, and it's something we will all resonate with. So you have your 3 hands, you have your celebrating your key for independence, learning to drive and having that freedom, your key for your first home, starting on the property ladder, again that independence and ability to provide for a family. And this piece here, which unfortunately is like a secret language understood by women, where we would walk home at night with the keys held firmly within our fists like this. And she has these wonderful lines from a contemporary Irish singer, Sinead. My style icon is the Wolverine. Between each finger lies the key to getting home. And that as women, we have this hidden language where this is our meek little attempt to walk home at night feeling a little bit safe. Of course, Rowena Carr, an exceptional crochet artist that we're very privileged and lucky to have out here in the Eastside, very much held the gauntlet for this second tapestry. And you'll remember Rowena from No Need to Argue, her beautiful gold in crocheted halos in over Dolores O'Riordan and Sinead O'Connor, very much done in the Byzantine iconic imagery. So she would have led with this piece. I chose the bear, exquisitely crocheted, and a lovely mashup of applique and chain stitching. And it is an incredibly interesting debate, and it opens the conversation, heated conversation around who would you prefer to bump into on your way home from night or through the woods? Is it the bear or is it the stranger? And the truth is, when you boil it down, you know what to expect from the bear. You know you're going to get a big you're going to get a scalding. And with a man, a stranger at night, you don't know what you're going to take home, because very often we're very aware and hear the stories of that the man will be sweet of high, and you might have left a monster past the threshold of your home, which many of our women have unfortunately suffered and known firsthand. So beautiful Frances would have done a wonderful tribute to her dear friend Josie, who herself would have been a victim and who went out to a Joe Dolan concert back in their young days, and unfortunately never made it home that night because her ex-partner decided to murder her. So this is another of beautiful Rowena's pieces, and Rowena, of course, is an exquisite crochet artist, and this piece is a tribute to her mum. And "She was for the birds" is the tagline, and it's a kind of a throwaway, often dismissive remark women would have endured too when kind of presenting to their local GP in relation to issues, health issues, often specific to a woman's health. So "She was for the birds", we're very familiar, we've all heard the expression, and she has very beautifully stitched and embroidered and beaded these wondrous birds in amongst these branches jutting out into all different directions, and it's quite astonishing the expression she's got in stitching, that kind of space between anxiety and holding on to mental reason and losing mental reason, and the tension and markings in her stitching is very no different than an abstract expressionist. It's quite wondrous what she's achieved through her actual skill set. But the messaging is incredibly poignant. It's a very beautiful tribute to her mother, and it's deeply emotional. We all feel it, my goodness. So quite an exceptional piece. This lady, astonishingly and very hard to believe nearly, Niamh had never stitched or embroidered previously, and she came with this expression that I think it harks from like Greek mythology. You know, they tried to bury us, they didn't know we were seeds. But of course we'd be more familiar with it, with Sinead O'Connor often spouted that precious line. And it's a incredibly resourceful kind of line, because we've often hit rock bottom ourselves in life and have had to lean into that expression. And the nugget of who you are is held within that seed, and the capacity for enormous growth always held in that seed, but you have to have the right conditions so that you can actually express yourself. And often if you're in a kind of unloving, unrespectful relationship, you won't get to grow, you know, and you'll know it when you're out there exposed to good soil and sunshine. You will grow as a human, and it's a beautiful expression, and how she has treated it so sensitively. And the pea pods here, I mean, she came with these little can rings from the top of Coke cans, and she has done this exquisite stitching to incorporate it, and those little can rings are involved in all of these beautiful pearls and whatnot. And this is what really excites myself and Rowena, of course. This is the enormous privilege of collaborating and inviting the community to come and express themselves, because you come across boundless talents lying dormant almost sometimes in the community, and you're just giving them opportunities to express, and they come with these wondrous gifts, and you're like, oh, it just excites you so much. It's a joy and a privilege to see these wonderful artists create and respond to themes in ways that is inside them. And this is Kitty, marvellous Kitty, was a librarian down in the lovely Ballyban Library where we've been facilitating these workshops, and she'd never embroidered in her life. And strong women raise strong children. Beautiful. I mean, her stitching is just to die for. It's flawless, and I love the tone she chose for all of her letters there. Absolutely astonishing. This is gorgeous Martina, and Martina is, as it says on the box, stronger together. Martina is a real community lady, and she glues us all together, and she's deeply giving, and a beautiful crocheter, and this embodies Martina. This is pure her, like she's a real together kind of girl. Me, myself, I, self-love is power. This is Anne, and it's such a vital, important messaging for our young girls, and even more so for mothers, because we always have ourselves last on the list of priorities, and we feel guilty for giving ourselves some bit of self-care. We actually feel guilty about it when it's actually a real necessary part of staying alive and functioning and being there for our children. So it's quite a significant messaging. And again, how she tentatively dealt with it was very inspiring. She's done some extraordinary stuff with her stitching, and it's a wonder to behold. It's absolutely stunning. Savage Daughter by Elliot is off the scale entirely. She has crocheted the entire piece. She would have drawn it out and gridded it, and again for herself, she had never done something like this. She dug deep, but more importantly than all of that, she introduced us to this astonishing song called Savage Daughter, which is just beautiful and resonates very deeply within the soul of women, and has responded with this stunning raven on your barone, and deep significance with her gems and her oak leaves and feathers. Very layered piece. So, and Elliot was one of our young participants, and just a breath of fresh air, and we were very, very lucky to have voices from kind of from intergenerational, because we kind of have less and less opportunity to mingle the ages like we once did, you know, with the bingo halls and the set dancing. So having a resurgence of this appreciation for slow stitching and being much more deliberate and conscious of how we consume and what we wear, and getting women around a circle of all ages has really been a lot of what we've been seeking, really. I mean, I think some of this stuff was only a guise for just getting women around a table talking. That's all we wanted at the end of the day. So, speaking of young people, we had beautiful Emily, who did this astonishing tribute to Leave Molly Malone. And alone is within the word Malone. And of course, what she is referencing is our beautiful statue up to Molly Malone up in Dublin, and the tradition of going up and giving a rub of her breasts for good luck. And the young kids now are like appalled. And it's wonderful. It's so refreshing to hear them say that. They're damn right. This is wonderful Yvonne, fighting for autistic children's right to have access to disability services in Ireland. And love and trust your instinct. Now, myself and Yvonne, we are both raising two autistic boys ourselves, and we know all about the never-ending cycle for advocating for your children's basic health rights and educational rights. And in the world of neurodiversity, the fight is continuous throughout the life of the entire child, or the life, yeah. So love and trust your instinct, of course, no more than women's health being dismissed, so was your mother's concern about the neurodiversity of their child. And Yvonne also is raising a beautiful, beautiful young girl, and she has done this astonishing tribute: in a world filled with Kardashians, be a patsy. And it's lovely messaging, as in, don't be afraid, girls, to step outside of the carbon copy of being a girl, and often that girl being whatever it is that a man fantasizes about, just a male or an object of desire. You can be a whole lot more. And so I think we have a space in 2025 for the likes of Patsy, to shake it up a little bit. Time to Go was a very astonishing piece done by Genevieve, who loves her quilting. And in this very poignant piece, you have your lone girl in the rowing boat and the chain being snapped. And we have that kind of narrative around immigration or migration and the excitement and the land of opportunity, but also having to leave for, it could be seeking abortion in England, or for very different reasons. So she has a mixture of words put in there, whether it is failure, flee, fragile, future, family, fortune, fantasy. So you have the whole range of reasons we get on a boat. Rowena, again, period products are not a luxury, and so exquisitely embroidered. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stitching, but a really important narrative, because of course they're not a luxury, they're a necessity. And many of our young girls, and it doesn't matter what demographic you're from nowadays, good heavens, because of the cost of living and the cost of going to university, and it's a basic right, and women or young girls should be supported to look after their own hygienic care. There is nothing stronger than a broken woman who has rebuilt herself. A beautiful quote from Hannah Gatsby. And Hannah Gatsby is a autistic comedian who is quite exceptional in that her work is very kind of trauma informed, and she gives us she has flipped comedy on its ear as such, and she gives everybody enormous agency from how she presents. And she's a wonderful lady to be inspired by, speaking truth to power. This piece here, good heavens, Superfication, my arse. A woman to blame. That was my own response to the Kerry Babies case, and this appalling treatment of Joanne and her family, and the nonsense that they've had to endure. Good heavens, we have of course this exceptional piece by the beautiful Manuela. And Manuela is a beautiful Spanish girl that's exceptionally talented, and you can see she has on her border here, it is the classical quilting style, and hermana, which is sister. So hermana is sister. Yo sí te creo, I do believe you. And if only every woman who presented was believed from the get-go, we'd have a very different judicial system. And this, I would encourage you all to come up and have a proper study of Manuela's, Martha's response, because she has individually listed Giselle, Danielle, Manuela, lots of name dropping of Loretta, of girls we'd be familiar with who have hit the headlines, who have suffered diabolical abuses and trauma, and often case murder from, again, men who should have loved and protected them. So sister, I do believe you is so important and universal, and we're very, very lucky to have had Martha contribute such an important narrative to us here. This is Helen Monaghan, and Helen is a wonderful lady. Myself and Rowena were very lucky to have learned how to sew and embroider from the wonderful Helen, and she joined us, and she actually embroidered our thank you message. And this piece, Take Me to the Church, is a song by Sinead O'Connor, and again I would invite you to come up and look at it closely, because she references Sinead's lyrics over the musical notes here, and I'm the only one I should adore. You know, it's not bad messaging to give our young girls at all. It's wonderful. You know, yeah, you should put yourself centre to your own life. You absolutely should. It's marvellous. This is Trays, my goodness. It's our dearly beloved Mrs. Doyle from Father Ted. And will you have a cup of tea? Ah, go on. And I love this, okay? Trays had never stitched before, but I adore her stitching. It's really intense and deliberate and layered, and it's absolutely exquisite. And I love this notion of the old cup of tea, you know, that it kind of heals all wounds as such, and that it is a meeting for women to have that cup of tea, share the conversation, difficult conversations. So there's a little bit more going on than, you know, first presents. We have lovely Valerie here. Growth. She's obsessed with growing, and she really leans into the cathartic and restorative power of growing and watching her vegetables, some of them that shouldn't flourish at all, flourish some years. And, you know, so she leans into nature a lot and gets a lot of strength from that. And that is a very beautiful thing to have brought into the group. Roberta Cumanama, so we would know Cassie Collum, who is her great-grandaunt. And that is a marvellous tribute to a lot of women who had to pick up arms and fight for our own independence. Oh my goodness, sure. This again is Rowena Carr, and no should mean no, but it does mean no when we say it, but unfortunately the men claim not to hear it, or they certainly don't take any notion to it. This is Margaret, Fight Like a Girl. She did this astonishing photo print of Katie Taylor, and very wonderfully embellished. And there's a lot of messaging in there now. Fight like a girl. Isn't that quite provoking? Again, the whole piece is littered with everybody embroidered their own name and on it popped. And what is quite exceptionally marvellous as well is all along the lovely buttoned frame is these hidden little text, little messages, whether it's rebel or or joy, or, you know, little messaging. So that's it in a nutshell. But you'll discover more and more as you percolate with the piece.